Western civilization seems to be getting crazier by the day, and it's got even crazier recently. The White Chart, made by Barner Hess, a black professor of African American studies. He made this chart, and it is to represent what level of white us white people are at. There are 8 different segments to it, and you're meant to identify with one of these segments. Now, the definition of this chart, the meaning of it, is quite interesting. There is a regime of whiteness, and there are action-oriented white identities. People who identify with whiteness are one of these. It's about time we build an ethnography of whiteness, since white people have been the ones writing about and governing others. I mean, I'm a bit confused already. People that identify with whiteness. You mean white people? Because they're white? Maybe I'm not understanding this. There are 8 levels of whiteness. There are 8 parts of this spectrum. Let's take a look at the different levels. So at the worst end of the spectrum, this is the worst thing you can be on this white chart, the white supremacist. Now, you've probably heard this term before anyway. That is like a Ku Klux Klan member. The definition for this on their chart is clearly marked white society that preserves names and values white superiority. So yeah, the worst of the worst, KKK, all that nonsense. Second in the chart is white voyeurism. This means you wouldn't challenge a white supremacist, and you desire non-whiteness because it's interesting, pleasurable, seeks to control the consumption and appropriation of non-whiteness. Fascination with culture, however, though, such as consuming black culture without the burden of blackness. For example, being a white man listening to Tory Lanez, but you're not having to deal with being black. You basically get a white voyeur if you're enjoying any product from a black person as a white man. Number 3, you would have heard of this, white privilege. More than a term now apparently, and now it's a measure of your whiteness. You may critique supremacy, but a deep investment in questions of fairness/equality under the normalization of whiteness and the white rule sworn goal of diversity. So that basically means, as we know what white privilege means, you're in a comfortable position, but you do sometimes question the equality overall, but you're not really going to do anything about it because you're in a comfortable position. White benefit. Sympathetic to a set of issues, but only privately. You won't speak or act in solidarity publicly because benefiting through whiteness in public. Some people of color are also in this category. So white benefit means you're speaking out on an issue to the public, but you're benefiting from it not because of what you're saying, but because of the fact you're white. You already have the upper hand, apparently, because whatever you're saying is going to be superior to what anyone else is saying because you are a white person saying it. White confessional. Some exposure of whiteness takes place, but as a way of being accountable to people of color after, seek validation from people of color. So this means you go up to your people of color friends or people of color people and you ask for validation. Am I cool? Is that alright? Even though I'm white, is that alright? White critical. Number 6. Take on board critiques of whiteness and invest in exposing/marking the white regime. Refuses to be complicit with the regime. Whiteness speaking back to whiteness. What? I think that means you, as a white person, you attack other white people. That is a great term. Whiteness speaking back to whiteness. Number 7, white traitor. It's called white traitor, but we're actually going in the right direction. Each of these is getting progressively better, supposedly, less worse. So the white traitor actively refuses complicity, names what's going on. Intention is to subvert white authority and tell the truth at whatever cost. Need them to dismantle institutions. So this is basically the white man turning against the other white man to take down the white man. And you're doing this for the benefit of other races, people of color. Now, number 8. This is the best white person you can be. White abolitionist. Changing institutions, dismantling whiteness, and not allowing whiteness to reassert itself. That just sounds like get rid of white people to me. I guess what that one is trying to say is anything that's white, that's being run by a white man in power, you should take that down and not let it rebuild itself. Don't take the white man down and then let him build something else or another white man come in and do it. When I saw this, I thought it was, I didn't know what I thought. I thought it was like a joke or something. You know, I'm still scratching my head about the initial definition of this chart, which is people who identify with whiteness are one of these. How can you identify with whiteness? You are white. You are your color. You cannot help what skin color you are white. And I suppose by the chart's definitions, everyone should be that level 8, that white say abolitionist, which is basically at the stage of white people apologizing for being white because of bad shit white people have done in the past or are currently doing, even though it's not us. And obviously this fella Barner Hess made this chart, but it was Mark Federman, the principal of East Side Community High School in New York. He sent this out to parents and wanted to get their response or their feedback. It's kind of unknown at this stage if this was meant to be given to parents so they could speak to their kids about it, or if he's sending it out to parents saying this is what we're going to be teaching in school now. I mean, they really shouldn't teach that in school. If you want to tackle racism at its core, you need to look at it as not just one race, you need to look at it as a broader spectrum. This is creating more racism in my eyes. I hate to sound cliche, but if this was a chart that said the 8 levels of black identity, wouldn't there be an uproar? Wouldn't this man be cancelled for sending it to parents? It's all very confusing. It seems a bit silly. It doesn't seem productive. It seems counterproductive, if anything. They're trying to tackle the racism issue. I don't think making a chart about how white a white person is and what level of whiteness they are is going to solve that problem. Of all the things you could be teaching kids in school about equality and racism and all this stuff, you really think teaching them about a whiteness chart is the way to go with it? I mean, the problem with this chart is it's basically saying white people are either racist, or they're afraid to speak out, or they need to turn against other white people. There's no real, good white person in this chart. It's all negative. I mean, please do let me know what you think about the chart. Do you think it makes sense? Do you think it's silly? Do you think it achieves anything? Let me know what you think about it. Peace.